Okay, you look at Microsoft and you think they're on top of the world, right? But what if the cracks in that foundation are really starting to show? Let's dive into the growing paradox at the very heart of one of the world's biggest companies. I mean, just look at the numbers. By every financial measure, Microsoft is absolutely crushing it. Their latest reports show staggering, record-breaking revenues. It really paints a picture of a company that has never been more successful. But that's only one side of the story. Because when you peel back that shiny financial layer, you find US federal regulators painting a very different picture. A completely scathing report from the Cyber Safety Review Board concluded that the company's internal culture isn't just flawed, it's broken, leading to preventable, catastrophic security breaches. And that right there, that conflict between profit and performance, is what analysts are now calling the Redmond paradox. So today, we're going to break down how a company can be so wildly successful on paper, yet so institutionally fragile at its very core. Here's how we're going to do it. We'll look at the culture of inadequacy that's leading to these major security failures, the crisis in user experience, the human cost of the company's massive pivot to AI, and finally, the regulatory storm that's now gathering on the horizon. So, first things first. It all starts with a collapse of the very foundation of trust, security. Look, we're not talking about a few one-off incidents here. The last few years have been a relentless, non-stop parade of high-profile and frankly preventable security breaches. From exposing millions of user records to having their own source code stolen, the pattern suggests a deep, systemic problem, not just a few isolated mistakes. And here's the really wild part. When the federal government's Cyber Safety Review Board investigated the massive 2023 State Department breach, they found it wasn't some sophisticated, cutting-edge attack. No. They called it a cascade of avoidable errors. We're talking about basic stuff, like using a cryptographic key from 2016 and failing to implement industry-standard multi-factor authentication. In this internal decay, it's not just a problem for governments. It's directly impacting the products that millions of us use every single day, leading to what a lot of critics are now calling the enshitification era. You know, where a product's quality is slowly degraded in favor of just extracting more value from its users. Just compare Windows 10 to Windows 11. It's a night and day difference in philosophy, isn't it? Windows 10 was largely seen as a tool to get work done. Windows 11, on the other hand, is increasingly seen as a vehicle for data extraction and ad delivery, with ads and recommendations popping up on the Start menu, the lock screen, and even the Settings app. If you want a perfect case study of this, look no further than the push for the Edge browser. The tactics have escalated from just simple nudges to what critics now describe as outright deception and even financial bribery, literally offering users cash value rewards to stop them from downloading Google Chrome. But honestly, nothing, and I mean nothing, captures this disregard for user trust quite like the planned recall feature. It was designed to constantly screenshot everything you do, but the version they were about to ship stored all that sensitive data in a simple, unencrypted text file on your computer. It was basically a goldmine for any piece of malware that happened to find. So, you have to ask yourself, where do these flawed product decisions come from? They don't happen in a vacuum. To understand them, you have to look at the human cost inside the company. Remember those record profits we talked about at the beginning? Well, at the exact same time, the company has been systematically laying off over 15,000 employees in 2025 alone. And these aren't defensive cuts because of financial trouble. They're described as offensive moves designed to reallocate funds from people to AI hardware. And as you can imagine, this sparked a huge political backlash. It came out that Microsoft was filing for thousands of H-1B visas for foreign labor during the same period as the layoffs, which drew sharp criticism from political figures like Senator J.D. Vance. So, what happens inside the company when you do that? Well, reports from current and former employees describe a culture of fear and ambient dread. You start to lose that veteran talent, that deep institutional knowledge. And that loss is now being directly linked to the rise in security bugs and bad products, because the people who knew how to maintain these complex systems, well, they're just not there anymore. Okay, so this is the crucial point. All of these sacrifices, in security, in product quality, and in its own people, they are all funding one single enormous bet. $80 billion. Let that sink in for a second. That's the estimated amount Microsoft is spending on AI infrastructure. It is a massive, all-in gamble, betting the entire future of the company on the success of its flagship AI product, Copilot. But here's the thing, despite pouring all that money in, the bet isn't really paying off as expected. As of late 2025, Copilot is seriously struggling with adoption. It's only captured a tiny fraction of the market compared to its main competitor, OpenAI's ChatGPT, which still commands the lion's share. So why the slow adoption? Well, businesses are discovering what some are calling a helpfulness tax. It's this hidden cost where any time you might save using the AI is completely eaten up by the time you spend correcting all of its mistakes and dealing with reliability issues. Alright, so you've got security failures, anti-consumer practices, and a huge risky bet that isn't working out. This combination has definitely not gone unnoticed, and now governments are starting to respond. And this is a very big deal. For the first time in 2 decades, Microsoft is facing a coordinated wall of antitrust scrutiny from regulators all across the globe. We're talking the US, the UK, and the entire European Union, all launching probes into the company's business practices at the exact same time. And these investigations aren't just nibbling around the edges, they're going right for the heart of Microsoft's modern business model. They're looking at whether bundling products like Teams is anti-competitive, if that landmark partnership with OpenAI was sneakily structured to avoid a formal merger review, and if they're charging a so-called tax for using their software on rival cloud platform. Which really brings us to the final, crucial question about the company's future. It seems like the very strategy that was designed to guarantee its dominance for the next decade has instead compromised its present, alienated its core users, and put it directly in the crosshairs of global regulators. And ultimately, that's what the Redmond paradox shows us. The real story of this tech giant's decay isn't about revenue figures. It's a story about a collapse in culture, in trust, and in quality. It's an institutional crisis where, frankly, the biggest threat to Microsoft is now Microsoft itself.